Hello, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltare, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, I've been focusing my attention on Les Filles du Roi, and by 2023, which is, I guess, almost 2.5 years ago now, I decided I wanted to do Les Filles Mariées, the marriageable girls. These are the women who came before Les Filles du Roi, and if we call Les Filles du Roi the founding mothers, these truly are the founding grandmothers. So their stories are extraordinary, and they're rich in the kind of ruggedness and challenge that was Quebec before the 1663, program of Les Filles du Roi. So that is who we are going to be looking at today. Another episode of Les Filles Mariées. Before we begin, let me show you ways you can help the channel. You can support the channel by subscribing, very important, liking this video, and clicking on notify so that you don't miss a video. And then to support the channel and help it grow, we have a couple of methods. We have the PayPal memberships that range anywhere from 99 cents a month onward, upward. And then we also have the PayPal button that goes on my website that you can contribute, which I appreciate very much. And then this is something new. They do a super thanks for the YouTube episode. Whatever episode you're looking at, you can do a super thanks for that episode. So that is all well and good, and I so appreciate each and every one of you who has participated thus far. Thank you so much for your support. And with that being said, let's get on with the show. Today we're going to be looking at episode 143, Jeanne Chaverlange. She comes to us from a viewer request. I did not have her in my files, so let's get to know Jeanne a little bit better. Jeanne was born in 1637 in Bourges, France. Her parents were Antoine Chaverlange and Marie Guérin. You can tell by the map that she's born right in that Centre Val de Loire, and inside of that region is the département or county of Cher, and Bourges is seen right there as a major town. In 1637, when Jeanne was born, Bourges was a very important city in central France with a long history going all the way back to Roman times. And the city was best known for the great Gothic cathedral Saint Etienne that you can see on the bottom right of your screen. It was built in the 1200s, and it constantly renewed and reinvented, if you will, but still stands over 1,000 years later. And on that left-hand side of your screen, this is kind of a medieval kind of looking town. Can you just imagine walking those streets knowing that people have been walking there for over 1,000 years? I just absolutely love these kind of cities. Jeanne would arrive in New France sometime around 1655. She may have come as early as 1654, perhaps, but we're fairly confident it was 1655. Let us look at the groom that she selected and who selected her. His name, Pierre Levasseur de l'Espérance. He was born in 1627 in Paris, France. His parents were Noël Levasseur and Geneviève Gaucher. Now, he was part of that first arrondissement. Remember that Paris is laid out in circles. That number 1 is where he was born, and that's the oldest part of the city. It's the city's historic core where the Romans met medieval Paris. For centuries, it's been the crossroads of royalty and religion and commerce. The Louvre that you see on the left of your screen is there. The church that he would have been baptized in, Église Saint-Loup et Saint-Gilles, still stands to this day. Again, dates back to the 12th century. And then he is in Île-de-France, is his region, and the first arrondissement. That bottom picture is Les Halles. Les Halles was a marketplace place that has existed from the medieval period. Obviously, it's still a happening place today, has been reinvented many a time, but this is where Pierre was coming from, that very historic part of Paris. Now, I just want to make mention of his nickname, that nickname they get, l'Espérance. That means hope. So he was Pierre Levasseur of Hope, or, also known as Hope. I love that. Let's have a look at his journey. Pierre and Jean, his brother, would come to New France. We're not clear if they came together or alone or each separately. It is fairly possible that Jean would have come before, but we're not sure. But they were both master carpenters and sculptors, and together they would be instrumental in creating some of the churches and what would eventually become other historic buildings in and around Quebec City. Pierre and Jeanne were married on the 25th of October, 1655, at Quebec City. Now let's talk a little bit about this very historic city. It was founded in 1608 by Samuel de Champlain. The name Quebec comes from the Algonquin word for Quebec, which meant where the river narrows, and Quebec City lies where the St. Lawrence River narrows. And this is an AI generated image of what I perceived Quebec City might have looked like at that time. And now we have a few pictures that kind of give you the trace of Quebec City. On the bottom of your screen, to the right, you see a shopping district. It's called Le Petit Champlain, and this apparently is the oldest shopping district in North America. Now, those city walls that are part of Quebec City, they are still existing, and they are the only city in North America that still retain their city walls. Now, on the middle of your screen, you see a kind of a hilltop. Well, that one was owned by a man named Abraham Martin, or Abraham Martin, also known as the Scotsman, l'Écossais. We do not know if he was from Scotland or from France, of Scottish origin, that sort of thing. But we do know that was his land. And he was extraordinarily one of the early pioneers. And that's in and of itself very important. But what's more important is that in 1759, 150 years later, his land was used by the British and fought against the French. And ultimately, that was the moment that the French were defeated and the British invaded Quebec City. And this became obviously a very big deal. And they now had to acquiesce to British rule, to English, all of that. They lost so much of their culture and their history, not only their country. And that is why if you travel in Quebec, you will see their license plate. It says, Je me souviens. That means I always remember. And they do remember this defeat. Now, the top part is a little bit more fun because it is the oldest structure still standing in Quebec City. It was built in 1675, and you can actually tour it because it's a restaurant appropriately called Aux Anciens Canadiens. You can look it up. I think I put the link for that restaurant as well. So this gives you an idea of the kind of life they would have led at Quebec City because they were busy being pioneers there. So they would go on to have 7 children. Now, Madeleine Françoise would marry Pierre Buisson and would have 4 children, 2 of whom would leave descendants. Marguerite would marry Maximilien, chef de ville, and have 4 children, 1 of whom would leave descendants. Pierre would marry first Madeleine Chapeau, would have 3 children, 1 of whom made it to adulthood. He would then marry Anne Ménage and would have 17 children, 8 of whom made it to adulthood, 7 who left descendants. Anne's mother was Anne Leblanc, a fille du roi who we have not yet profiled. Jeanne would marry Jean Rouillard and have 10 children, 5 of whom would make it to adulthood, 3 of whom would leave descendants. Jean's mother was Marie Girard, a fille mariée that we profiled in episode 53, and I've posted the link for you. Félicité would marry Pierre Hamel and would have 1 child who did survive. Antoine would pass away sometime after the 1681 census, and François would marry Marie-Madeleine Larue but would not leave any descendants. And then we find the 1667 census. Pierre Levasseur, he's 40 years old. Jeanne de la Vernagne is 30 years of age. We have Françoise, Marguerite, Pierre, Jeanne, Félicité, who's 6 months at that time. And we obviously don't have Antoine or François yet. Unfortunately, their story would come to an end because Jeanne would die before the 1681 census. Between 1675 and 1681, we do not have a death record. She was the last recorded activity, if you will. She was a witness in an assault case in 1675. Her age would have been under 44 years of age, but for that shortness of life, she would leave us with 85 descendants as of 1729. They would have been married between 20 and 26 years. Pierre himself would pass away in 1694 at the age of 67. He would never remarry. In the 1681 census, we have Pierre Levasseur left there, 52. His children Pierre, Jeanne, Félicité, Antoine, and François. They have 1 cow and 12 alfalfa, about 10 acres of land. If you want to do a little bit more research on the Levasseur family, in our French-Canadian Ancestors series of books, in Volume 8, we find Jean and Pierre Levasseur listed, and with a story in Chapter 17, pages 165 to 174. I've posted the link. Now, how can you get a hold of that? You can go on our Free French Canadian Ancestors Facebook page, or and then sign up, and they have the file, if you will, for each of that. You can also find it in a library, possibly at a family search library. I've known some of my supporters have told me they have purchased it on eBay as well. So they're out of print, obviously, but you can still obtain them. They're fabulous. They're a little bit flowery, but hey, it's really, really good reading. So I would encourage you to try to find your ancestors and their files in that our Free French Canadian Ancestors Facebook page. It's always so sad when a fille mariée passes away before the last census that we know of, 1681. And the fact that she is not able to live out her life in full with her husband and children is just tragedy. But it's also the great sacrifice of many of these women. The fact that they met an early death, but yet somehow contributed, obviously by coming here, by marrying, by being a support for their husband, and ultimately by being a mother to the children. And like I said at the outset, these are the founding grandmothers. Their time here on earth was early on in the history of Quebec and extremely necessary. And we are so grateful to Jeanne, however short her life was, to the fact that she contributed and left a lasting legacy. Thank you, Jeanne. We are ever so grateful. And I am so grateful for my patron supporters and subscribers. Thank you so much, all of you, for being there for me all these many years. I truly, truly appreciate you. And until I see you on the next episode of Les Filles Mariées, au revoir.